headliners, the newsmakers, the political scene, and government issues. These should be our concern, and we're taking you at the forefront. Good morning. I am Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join me at the forefront as we zero in and discuss the details of some of the most pressing national issues that our country faces. Following the apprehension in Indonesia and deportation of Shiela Guo and Cassandra Ong last week, the Philippine Anti-Organized Crime Commission is hot on the trail of former Bamban Mayor Alice Guo. PAOCC wants to bring back Alice Guo to face human trafficking and tax evasion charges. PAOCC believes that the Bamban mayor is key to uncovering foreign and local networks of transnational criminals. PAOCC's main order of business: find the elusive Alice Guo and bring her to justice at all cost. To give us information on sustained efforts to bring the Bamban mayor back in the country, we have with us PAOCC spokesperson, Director Winston Casio. Good morning, Director Winston.
Good morning, Attorney, and good morning to all your viewers.
Thank you for your time today, Director Winston.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the apprehension of Shiela Guo and Cassandra Ong in Indonesia. What was PAOCC's role in having this apprehension succeed?
Well, we had a very minimal role. All that we did was, when the news broke out, we have to be very honest, it came as a total shock to PAOCC that Alice Guo and all her co-conspirators were out of the country. All the while, we thought that she was still here because we were following up on the immigration records. As far as the records were concerned, she was here. Now, when the news broke out, we had to do the necessary calls with our foreign counterparts. The first country that I initially called was Malaysia. And they confirmed that indeed Alice Guo passed through Malaysia on July 18. Then thereafter, I had to call our friends in Singapore and Indonesia. Together with my co-directors in PAOCC, we were able to confirm that she was indeed in Indonesia by the time of August 18. So we coordinated with our local counterparts there, but the real hero, so to speak, to be able to get back Shiela and Cassie was the Bureau of Immigration. They touched base with their counterparts in Indonesia, and indeed we were able to bring them back here.
Director Winston, we had Attorney Ferdy Topacio, the lawyer of Cassandra Ong, here yesterday, and he said that Cassandra Ong has a valid Philippine passport, and it seems that Shiela Guo as well has a Philippine passport. So, in terms of exiting the country, did they pass through any of the Bureau of Immigration channels in order to exit the Philippines?
Now, with regards to Cassie Lee, she's been out of the country since June 14 or 17, if I'm not mistaken. We did our raid in Porac around June 4, then June 7. By the time of the 12th, she was not here anymore, I guess. So she exited the country legally, so to speak. During the time of her exit, there was no lookout bulletin, there was no precautionary whole departure order, so she was able to go out freely. Now with Shiela, we've yet to identify how she got out of the country, whether legally or what. Now, true, Cassie Lee Ong has a Philippine passport, but let me disclose that we're investigating as to her actual Filipino citizenship, because supposedly the mother and father of Cassie Lee were Chinese-born. They were Chinese nationals, and allegedly they say that they had they went through the naturalization process in the late 70s. True, the Bureau of Immigration was able to provide a certification to that effect. But, a big but, we're checking into their records as far as the Philippine Statistics Authority is concerned. We have yet to get an actual certification that the father of Cassie Lee actually went through the naturalization process.
With respect to Alice Guo, how did she leave the country?
Now, that's the big mystery for all of us. I'll have to be very honest. The last sighting that PAOCC, I don't know about the other agencies, the last sighting and reports that we had about Alice Guo was last July 14. She was supposedly in one of the private resorts in the western part of the Philippines. So our assets, our intelligence assets, was able to eyeball her, so to speak. So due to that fact, we were able to launch an operation to be able to, quote unquote, get her on the basis of the arrest warrant from the Senate and a mission order from the Bureau of Immigration. Unfortunately, early morning of the actual operations, our asset told us that she got out via 2 speedboats. This was July 14. Remember, the first sighting of Alice Guo outside of the country was July 17. She was in Denpasar, Bali, heading to Kuala Lumpur. Arrived in Kuala Lumpur by July 18. So there is a several days of window period that we could not account where she was. She did not go through the proper immigration channels. So quite obviously, she went out via the backdoor exit or any other exit where there was no immigration officer.
Was it possible that she was also using a private plane to travel at that time?
Well, that's always possible because we've got a very porous border, and I have to be very honest, our mechanism to be able to check chartered flights, private planes, is not that rigid, so she could have gotten out of that particular mode.
As the PAOCC is also coordinating with all the other agencies, so if, for example, Alice Guo traveled by private speedboats or private jets, with respect to private jets, wouldn't the CAAP or the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines be able to provide information because the clearance for private planes would also come from them?
Well, that's true, Attorney. But that's gonna be part of our investigation. The President released a public statement directing all of us in law enforcement and other agencies to be able to do a thorough investigation as to how she was able to get out. Now, with regards to CAAP, I guess they would be part of the agencies that need to do the investigation. Because, again, I'll be very honest, up until today, we're still at a loss how she got out.
In this case, the private resort where you last saw Alice Guo, or there was an eyeball of Alice Guo there, were you able to talk to that private resort? Is there any indication that they were also assisting in hiding Alice Guo?
Yes. Assisting is quite an understatement, right? So they were, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, they were providing quite a number of illicit opportunities for her to be able to get out via that particular western part of the Philippines. It's a very small island, privately owned, run by dubious individuals, so to speak, individuals of dubious characters who have in the past been in the news for some illicit activities. So we're doing a thorough investigation with regards to that particular resort, in as much as we found indications that there were public officers in that particular resort guarding that particular resort. So that's gonna be part of our investigation as to why they were there, and quite obviously they have a lot to answer for. At the very least, that is a private resort. There should be no public officers guarding that private resort. So why would taxpayers' money be used to guard a private resort?
Yes. Director Winston, can you give us an idea which province this resort is located in?
Central Luzon.
Okay. So I understand because an investigation is ongoing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but it sounds like you have public officials that are involved. If you have public officers guarding this resort that you said has done more than just assist Alice Guo in terms of hiding her and then facilitating her escape. And there were statements by the PAOCC before that wealthy businessmen and public officials were involved in helping Alice Guo escape. Is the PAOCC also gathering evidence against these individuals as accomplices or co-principals in certain crimes?
Yes, ma'am. The sad part of all of this episode is it's quite obvious that she would not have been able to do this without the assistance of public officers. That's an essential component of the president's statement. He wants to find out who among us in government assisted this particular flight. In as much as doing so, well, as he said, these particular individuals are corroding our criminal justice system, right? So that's what he said. So we're investigating all of this thoroughly. Unfortunately, there are too few of us. I mean, the PAOCC, the commission. There are only 52 of us, but with the assistance of the NBI, the PNP, and the DOJ. Our partner in all of this is the DOJ IACAT. They've been with us through and through in this fight against Pogo. So I'd like to commend the Department of Justice to Secretary Boying. They've been our stern supporter since the very start. Now, going back to the question. By the way, it's a very difficult question because we're talking about fellow officers of government, right? It's a very sad fact, but we'd have to meet the problem head on. We would not be able to fully investigate, quote unquote, fully investigate how she got out and how she was able to build that particular 10-hectare complex in her particular municipality, if not for the assistance of some people in government, both previous and current. They may be national officers, they may be bureaucratic officers, or they may be elected officers, local and national. But at the end of the day, we always go back to the instructions of the Executive Secretary, our chairman, Lucas P. Bersamin. Simply follow where the evidence leads you.
But you talked about the shortage in the staff or the manpower.
Yes,
How are
ma'am.
you able to gather evidence? And it seems like the scope is so widespread if you're talking about national officials, local government officials. How will you manage to gather evidence?
Ma'am, before I answer that question, we've got an 80 square meter room full of documentary evidence. So we have to pour through all of those documents on almost daily basis. And on a daily basis, they keep on piling up. We're able to gather more evidence. Now, how are we able to do that? We're an interagency body. So we can call for the assistance of the DOJ IACAT, and they provide two sets of prosecutors. One set of prosecutors, probably around 12 of them, handling the cases in Bamban. Another set, probably 8 of them, handling PORAC, Pampanga. So with their help, we're able to go through all of this, and likewise with the assistance of the CIDG and the NBI. You know, the CIDG, they're a very strong partner of PAOCC in this fight against Pogo. But at the end of the day, we can only do so much, PAOCC and the different agencies. We would like to call on our people out there who may have been witnesses to all of these crimes and who may be patriotic enough to be able to come forward and provide evidence and help us. Because if the people will not help us, if witnesses will not come forward, right? So all of this will be documentary evidence, fine, but better if there will be testimonial evidence that would be able to corroborate what we have on paper. Of course, paper do not lie. But we would like people to make stories, descriptions out of those paper.
And how will people be able to contact the PAOCC?
We're on Facebook 24/7. They can call us, they can message us anytime, and a staff answers those questions.
Director Winston, yesterday we had Attorney Topacio also saying that no case has been filed against his client, Cassandra Ong, to this date. And from what he also knows, no case has also been filed against Shiela Guo. Is this accurate?
With regards to Shiela Guo, that's true. There are no cases that have been filed against her, but she's facing serious immigration charges. She fraudulently acquired her COLB, Certificate of Live Birth. Ergo, she fraudulently acquired her passport. So that in itself is a serious crime. Administrative, albeit, but a serious crime nonetheless.
But
now,
I think if she also falsified her certificate of live birth, she can be liable for a criminal case of falsification
Yes,
of public
ma'am.
documents. So
Yes, ma'am.
that's like something that's in the pipeline that will be filed.
But we have to make a determination as to whether we'll approach this first from an immigration standpoint, or we can do it a parallel filing of charges. We have yet to reach that point. Now, Cassandra Ong, they just have to wait. That's true. No charges have been leveled against her, but there is a contempt charge that has been leveled against her by the lower house. And we're just we're just probably looking at few days, and she'll be facing a barrage of criminal charges as well.
Okay, so that's at least in the works.
Yes.
What about Alice Guo? Are there cases filed against her?
That's an understatement. She already has a graft charges before the Office of the Ombudsman. She has tax evasion charges filed by the BIR, and of course our qualified trafficking in persons. And we're readying the filing of money laundering charges against her also.
Okay, so there's currently a warrant of arrest standing against Alice
None
Guo, is
yet.
that correct?
None yet.
Why is there no warrant of arrest
There
yet?
is no resolution yet before the DOJ panel with regards to the with regards to the cases that we filed against her. So we're waiting for the resolution from the DOJ panel, and we believe that we filed strong enough cases against her. And probably in the next few days or weeks, the DOJ will be coming up with a resolution, and we expect the subsequent arrest warrants to come out against her.
But Director Winston, if you say we're expecting it in a few days should be okay, but in a few weeks, that seems to be too long, because in the meantime, you have Alice Guo potentially moving and probably going to other countries where it would be harder to arrest her.
Unfortunately, I could not speak for the panel of prosecutors. I wouldn't want to impose on how they appreciate the evidence. I wouldn't want to impose on how they do their work. Now, the other part of your question, she's moving around Indonesia, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, so to speak, and hopefully she doesn't go into the Golden Triangle or to the northern part of Thailand, because if that happens, it's going to be more difficult for us. Now, what are the legal avenues available to us at the moment? We're applying for a blue notice. Basically, a blue notice is an Interpol tool that allows the host country to locate the whereabouts of a subject person of a criminal investigation. At the moment, that's the best that we can do.
Director Winston, you mentioned earlier that it would be harder to arrest Alice Guo if she were to enter the Golden Triangle, which I think is Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia.
Yes, ma'am.
And the northern tip of Thailand. Why
Yes,
would it be more difficult to apprehend her in these areas?
We've been reading the news about this particular area. So it's a conflict zone, primarily in Myanmar, and she could easily go through any of those particular areas and evade capture. Now, why are we saying Golden Triangle? Because her brothers have business interests in Cambodia, gambling interests in Cambodia. And we're hoping that she doesn't reach that point. She won't be able to reach that particular area, because if we do, we may not be able to get the kind of assistance that we're getting now from Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, being vibrant democratic countries.
At the moment, does PAOCC have any idea as to the whereabouts of Alice Guo?
Well, we're highly dependent on our colleagues in Indonesia. Our colleagues from the Bureau of Immigration in the Philippines are also in touch with their colleagues in Indonesia, and they're provided with the same information that they provide us, namely that she's still cornered within that particular pocket of Batam in Indonesia. She was assisted by a Singaporean national by the name of Shang Ji in securing a 4-day stay at the Harris Hotel Batam in Batam, Indonesia. We have not received any information if she checked out or if she left Batam. But what we got 2 nights ago was she's still in Batam.
And Director Winston, in this hotel, in Harris Hotel, according to reports, Shiela Guo was there, Alice Guo, Wesley Guo, and Cassandra Ong. And you have these two groups, meaning the Guo, they're related to the Pogo operations in Bamban, Tarlac, while Cassandra Ong is related to Pogo operations in Porac, Pampanga. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
So that seems to establish a link between these two Pogo operations. What has the PAOCC gathered so far?
We've been saying this all along, right at the very get-go, that Bamban and Porac, they belong to one criminal organization. Now, when we raided Bamban around March 13 of the current year, we found so many evidence that led us to different other Pogos, primarily Lucky South 99. So, we are of the contention that Bamban and Porac, they belong to the same criminal organization. They're headed by the same criminal organization. Therefore, whatever charges we file in relation to Bamban would also be interconnected with Porac. So that's how complicated this particular case is.
Do you foresee any other area outside of those two that might be linked as well to these Pogo operations?
Yes, but Attorney, that is something I could not disclose at this moment.
Yes, at the moment. Don't worry, Director Winston. I understand that. So, Cassandra Ong is also the client of Harry Roque. Is that correct? Because of the...
He said so. He said so. Because of the litigation that Whirlwind Corporation, the company that supposedly Cassandra Ong represented, they're locked in a land dispute, so to speak, with their lessor, basically the Cruz family.
Okay, but so far, based on evidence that you've gathered, does it go deeper than a lawyer-client relationship, or Harry Roque as a former government official, do you see any links to Pogos itself?
The links have been made public by the current investigation in the lower house. So as the investigations in the lower house progresses, I'm sure they would be able to unearth a whole lot more. But we in PAOCC, we are of the belief that their relationship is something that goes beyond Whirlwind Corporation. And we would allege this in the next coming days. Now, Attorney Roque is telling us to simply file the charges if we already have enough evidence. But let me remind him also that we would file the cases once we are ready to make sure that the cases will stick and that the cases are based on solid evidence. PAOCC, as instructed by the Executive Secretary, our chairman, will never file cases on the basis of flimsy evidence. No? So we would have to file evidence that are cases that are rooted on solid evidence. And as of the moment, we believe that we have enough, but we would prefer not to file the cases yet until such time that we get more evidence, corroborating that is.
And Director Winston, there were major revelations in Congress during the quadruple committee hearings.
Yes, ma'am.
Did these revelations come from PAOCC? But before you answer that question, Director Winston, we'll have to take a short break. At the forefront, we'll be right back. Welcome back at the forefront. Before the break, Director Winston, we were asking you, there were major revelations at the Quadcom hearings in Congress. Did these revelations come from PAOCC?
Most of those were results of the investigations of the congresspersons themselves. But true enough, yes, we provided them some leads, some documents that they requested from us, and going through those documents and through those leads, they are led to the point where they are now. So, yeah, we may have helped, but the great portion of what they're finding out now is basically their own work.
Okay, that's good then. At least you have this additional branch of government also with their own staff looking into these Pogo operations further.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're going to be a resource person also in the TRICOM hearings that's starting in Senate today.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we expect any additional revelations to come from PAOCC?
Well, if we are able to disclose, we would only be able to disclose what is publicly known and what is not part of our ongoing investigation. We wouldn't want our investigation to be stalled by informing the public so much, too much of what they should be knowing. But yeah, I think there are some more that we could share to what the Senate would be able to bring out to the public in relation to this particular investigation.
Director Winston, Senator Jinggoy Estrada previously mentioned a mayor in Pangasinan that supposedly is a partner or a boyfriend of Alice Guo. Do you have any information as to whether this is true?
We have information about that particular mayor, but what we know at this point is something that is not for public consumption.
Okay, so we don't have, at least for us, the public, we are not yet able to know the identity of this mayor. But would you know also if that partnership is more than just a relationship? Meaning, could this mayor be also involved in illegal Pogo operations?
I could not say that he's involved in illegal Pogo operations, but I could say that he's involved in some of the business dealings with the former mayor of Bamban.
So far, Director Winston, can you give us an idea as to how much cash the PAOCC has been able to forfeit in terms of these Pogo operations?
Okay. Let's not focus on the cash. Let's focus on the entire amount of real estate properties, fungible items, vehicles, and the like. We're now nearing 30 billion worth of confiscated assets from these Pogos.
And how is this being managed?
Now, that's the tricky part. The Philippines, we've got a very weak asset management system in relation to proceeds forfeited from illicit activities. Remember, most of these assets are still subject of litigation. While the cases are being litigated, PAOCC is in custody of all of these assets. We have Bamban, how much? 10 hectares, more or less. We have Porac, 8 hectares, more or less. We've got a building in Pasay that we're using now, together with DSWD. That building could be anywhere between $1 billion to $2 billion in value. We've got another building in Pasay also, could be anywhere between $500 million to $800 million worth of assets. So, question. Those part easy. We have to pay for bill, Meralco and water bills, fine. But the real problem is what do we do with the almost 100 plus vehicles in our possession?
Wow. That's how much vehicles you have, over 100 vehicles.
Yes,
and right now, they're probably kept in the same areas where they were found, in the facilities. But then, cars deteriorate if you're not able to drive them. So how does PAOCC manage to keep these inventories from deteriorating?
We're actually seeking the help of DOJ. Our chairman, the executive secretary, has requested DOJ provide us with a legal justification to be able to use these particular vehicles, legally that is, or if not, sell this, auction this. But then of course, that's going to be difficult because all of these are subject to litigation. Until such time that we conclude with the case, they're just there, left rotting.
Okay, so it sounds like there's still a lot of gaps.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of how also the government can manage assets that are forfeited from illegal Pogo operations. Has PAOCC been coordinating with Congress and Senate so that they are aware that these are things that they can include in the necessary legislation?
Yes, ma'am. We've made the necessary recommendations to both houses of Congress in relation to asset forfeiture, asset management, in relation to criminal activities. So, because unless we do have that framework, we're, we're left with the problem of managing all of this, and we're not asset managers. We're law enforcement investigators. So we don't know any better than you on how to manage these particular assets. In the building that I occupy as a temporary office, there are 14 luxury vehicles.
Wow.
Lexus, Alphard, Audi, and they've been there since October of last year. So most likely, there's gonna be problems if someone tries to use them again.
Yes, I think this is something that needs to be addressed right away because
Yes.
The deterioration of assets, but then also making sure that the inventory is intact because you
Yes.
already have your hands full with the investigation
Yes.
itself. What type of assistance is the PAOCC also receiving from, for example, the Commission on Audit so that they can also perhaps modify the rules when it comes to ensuring that.
Honestly, attorney, we have not made any representation with COA, but we're on a constant communication with AMLC. They're the ones who do the inventory, and they're the ones who help us with the civil forfeiture, petitions for civil forfeiture in relation to all of these assets. Now, there's one more thing. We've got thousands of computers that are left rotting. That would have been better if we simply donated them to DepEd or TESDA or whoever. But now we can't use them because they're part of our evidence, right? So
Okay.
they're there.
Very complicated. You mentioned the AMLC or Anti-Money Laundering Council as helping in terms
ma'am.
of just the asset inventory and managing
Yes,
these forfeited assets. Are they also able to help when it comes to tracking bank accounts so that if there are also cash that's related to these illegal activities, you're able to access them?
Yes, ma'am. AMLC filed a petition for civil forfeiture in relation to all assets related to Alice Guo. And they were able to get that particular forfeiture order from the Court of Appeals. Now, we're expecting that they would be able to do the same for PORAC. PORAC is more complicated. There are many more moving parts. There are many more investors that we need to investigate and freeze their assets. But they've also helped us with the other properties, other cases that we've been able to secure. So they're a good partner.
Director Winston, the assets are one thing, but what about the people that you found in these facilities? How is PAOCC managing in terms of the deportation and making sure you facilitate the exit from the country of those that were involved in the Pogo operations?
Let me put it this way. The government spends 8.5 million a month to be able to provide for the food, electricity, water, security, and medical well-being of all of these detainees. Now, with regards to deportation, thankfully the People's Republic of China is invested heavily in the fight against gambling. So they spend their government's money to be able to deport their nationals to their country. Now, with regards to the other countries, unfortunately they don't, because I guess they are limited by the budget that they have.
What other countries also have workers in our Pogo operations?
To name a few, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Myanmar, Kazakhstan, Rwanda, so Brazil.
Even Brazil.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so now what, they're stuck here in the Philippines?
For the time being.
Okay, but are we in coordination with these countries so that
Yes,
they
ma'am.
can be, okay, they're eventually going to be deported?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but Director Winston, with respect to transnational crimes, you mentioned earlier that Alice Guo's brothers are also involved in gambling operations
Yes, ma'am.
in Cambodia. Do we get assistance from foreign governments in terms of investigating transnational crimes, potentially linking them to the crimes here in the Philippines? Is that something that we're
Yes.
already doing?
Thankfully, the ASEAN has a very robust framework against transnational organized crime. So our partner countries are able to provide us the necessary assistance. But of course, It would be better if we've got an international framework, a regional framework on how to fight this particular problem. Because now we're using our old frameworks. The problem of scamming activities in relation to offshore gaming is an entirely different animal. For lack of a better term, it's sui generis, as I would say. So we need a different approach to the problem. Because, look at it this way, Attorney. If we close them here in the Philippines, all that they would do is transfer to Cambodia, Laos, or Myanmar. And Myanmar, primarily, is a very receptive country because it is a conflict area. Now, once they go there, they can basically restart their entire mechanism, their entire scamming mechanism. And they'll just buy their time. And at some point, go back to whichever country they came from. Myanmar has a good number of Filipinos who are employed, trafficked in scamming areas. Myawaddy, for example. So all of these people, all of these Filipinos who are now in Myawaddy were formerly workers here in Pogos in the Philippines. But they were very good at what they were doing. They were imported, so exported into Myanmar. So what I'm trying to say is the entire ASEAN region needs to sit down and come up with a holistic and regional approach to this problem. If not, this problem will only be transferring and will only be evolving, and we will see them again in the Philippines sometime soon.
Director Winston, is there someone that's reaching out to other ASEAN countries so that this conversation can happen?
UNODC. Thankfully, the UNODC is there. So UNODC is spearheading the discussion on this particular area, this particular problem. And in fact, they are hosting a conference in Singapore as we speak on high-tech financial crimes, basically all of this that we're talking about.
Director Winston, it's been over a month since the President said that we have to ban and wind down all Pogo operations in the country. And the PAOCC is the agency leading this effort. As of today, where is the progress when it comes to this mandate?
Well, we're doing our best. Look at it this way, Attorney. The different agencies of government, PNP, NBI, they're also doing their own operations. But we would like that these operations result in the following. One, the filing of necessary charges against the foreign and Filipino managers, financiers, and so on. That's being done. Unfortunately, a good number of the cases that they have filed are also being, how would I say it, RFI, recommended for further investigation. Now, that's not a good thing. Okay. Second, they also need to summarily deport all foreign nationals that they find in these scamming activities. Why? All of these foreign nationals are there illegally, so to speak. They're undesirable aliens because they're violating their conditions of stay. But in our checking of all of the raids conducted by these agencies, only a few have been charged criminally, and no summary deportation proceedings have been done. So that's bad. And third, and the most important part, they must proceed with civil forfeiture. How can you proceed with civil forfeiture if your criminal charges are RFI'd? So we would like them, forgive me, my colleagues in government, we would like them to do better than what they're doing now. So PAOCC, we're investigating a good number of scam hubs, scam farms now, and there are many requests for rescues from different embassies, and we're going to deal with those.
Thank you so much, Director Winston. You truly have a big job in your hands, but you really gave us a candid assessment as well as to how the government is doing right now in terms of this initiative against Pogo operations. So thank you so much for your time and good luck with the TRICOM hearings today.
Thank you.
From a local investigation into an international pursuit, The PAOCC is executing the President's orders of winding down Pogo operations by year-end. With too many legislative investigations into Pogos, everyone is looking at PAOCC and its next revelation. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again tomorrow for meaningful conversations that would help you form an objective personal opinion. This is Attorney Karen Jimeno. Thank you for spending your hour with us.